but we start with a transformative day in college athletics and really college football. A judge yesterday preliminarily approved the NIL lawsuit settlement in college athletics. And what this means is that you are going to have major universities collecting about $21.5 million a year to start. That'd be each university collecting $21.5 million to directly pay college athletes, mostly in college football and college basketball. And still, those athletes are going to be able to go outside the university of system and earn money on their name, image, and likeness. Jake, is this a good or a bad thing for college athletics?
Yeah, I think it's a really slippery slope. They obviously provide, the lifeblood of athletics, right? They're the ones out there competing. They're the ones putting their body on the line every week. Like, obviously, they should be able to go out and get paid. I think the hard part with this is, as we always reference on the show, the unintended consequences and who's going to try to skirt what rule, and what's the new wild west look like, because we all know that somebody's going to break some kind of rule within this settlement. And that's my biggest concern. We've graduated from, hey, careful how many chicken sandwiches you take off the training table after the game, to now we're in a place where kids are making millions. And if that was it, if that was all we were talking about, I wouldn't be concerned at all. Hey, you're a superstar college football player. Go out and make your money, dude. If I had that kind of ability and I could do that, I'd want to make money too. So it's not even that I have an issue with kids making money. I just feel like when we get settlements like this and we get all this new legality coming into the sport, inevitably someone tries to, make those millions of dollars at the school level and then maybe not pay out what they should. Or, like, we know that there's always going to be some type of something that goes on. And that's my biggest concern with this stuff, because we already see it in recruiting. We already see it in a variety of other areas within college athletics. And I just think that the more money is involved in something, the more problems that come up. So I'm curious, how that kind of manifests itself moving forward.
Well, the particulars on this are that there will be $2.5 billion set aside to pay athletes going back as far as 2016 who were not allowed to earn money above board, like without envelope and bagmen on their name, image, and likeness. And that's really what we, I think, over time in college sports have seen, that we reduce teenagers to picking up envelopes in back alleys. And now it's all out in the light. So a $2.5 billion settlement. Athletes dating back to 2016 will begin collecting that money on October 18th, or will be eligible to. It is just a different day in college athletics. I think the other really important talking point here is about the impact NIL is having on college athletics. I think it is a very good thing. I think that we are in a place in our society where we need to allow kids to make mistakes. And we have already seen mistakes being made in NIL. Just ask UNLV with their quarterback situation with Matt Sluka, or any number of these situations where you've seen promises made, but promises not kept. Because does an 18-year-old kid know he's got to get a contract? Is it always in writing? Of course it's not. And that's where the regulation part of this, the regulatory aspect of this NIL settlement, is huge. There will be oversight for NIL, because to this point, if we're being brutally honest, I don't think any of us believe that NIL has been just an overwhelmingly good thing for college football and basketball. I don't think any of us believe that. I think this Wild West atmosphere we've been living in for the last several years has actually been very detrimental. You've seen a lot of kids not playing bowl games because, frankly, it's not worth their money to get hurt to play in a meaningless bowl game. I think that's been very bad for fan bases, and it's caused, frankly, a lot of passionate college athletic fans to become apathetic towards college athletes now who are making far more, and who a lot of older college athletic fans don't believe should get anything other than a scholarship. Well, bad news for those folks, because now everybody on the football team over, I think it's 107 now is the roster number. All of those people will be on scholarship. 15 players on a basketball team now will be on scholarship. You will have more scholarships available in stick and ball sports, yet you will also have walk-ons at that level. So the game is changing fundamentally. The way that we fund college athletics in this country has completely changed with the stroke of a judge's pen. And I think it's a very good thing. Now the part that you don't want to talk about. And I think if you are a fan of the G5, this is where the College Football Super League is born. And I don't know how you argue this. Number one, lean into it. Lean into it. Because as I say in a lot of situations on this show, you better learn to love it. Because this is where we're going. This is the future. And I'm not telling you that everything will be perfect in a College Football Super League. But what is the most important caveat of this settlement that has been preliminarily? It will not be final until next spring, but a judge signed off on it on a preliminary basis. It allows universities to opt out. It says, hey, if you don't want to be involved in this revenue sharing and you don't want to pay $21.5 million every single year to your athletes, opt out. I think just about everybody at the FCS level, which essentially is Division II, everybody at the FCS level is going to opt out. You're going to see a lot of the G6 now opt out of revenue sharing. And what does that mean? Well, that means you just shrank the pool of the College Football Super League from hundreds to probably 60 or 70. Funny. What are the numbers we've been talking about for over a year on this show? Yeah, about 60 or 70, 70 or 80, max 80 teams in the Super League. And I think now with the money that these universities, because again, not to oversimplify this, who makes up the NCAA? Every one of these universities we talk about on this show on a daily basis, whether you are FCS, whether you are FBS, Division 68, you're in the NCAA. You're the ones that approve this. And they didn't do it blindly and they didn't take it lightly. This is where the College Football Super League is born. This is where in football alone, and it is exclusive to football, conference affiliation in a number of years is not going to matter anymore. You are going to be paying to play big boy football. And Jake, in my opinion, it's exactly what college football needs.
Yeah, I just think that there's a separation of classes that has to take place. And I think, this settlement kind of paves the way for that process to begin. And I think, the opt-in, opt-out situation is a perfect mechanism to start that process. I also think, in the settlement, there's a lot of gray area right now around, hey, will that, revenue sharing number of, 22 million a year, will that slowly creep up after we get the opt-in, opt-out situation kind of dealt with? And I think those are the things that you're going to start to see play out, because we're already seeing the separation of classes at the power conference level, right? We're already seeing, hey, the SEC and the Big Ten are already making way more money than the ACC and the Big 12. And that sort of concept is going to continue to trickle down into the G5, into the FCS level,
Absolutely.
like he was just saying. And I think that the money, the money piece of this is something that leadership in college football, I feel like, hasn't really necessarily wanted to kind of embrace or talk about, or like just be honest about the fact that, we probably shouldn't have, Sac State or any other, FCS school on the same football field, as Ohio State or whoever you want to point to, even if it is week 0 of the college football season. It shouldn't be a thing where we're putting those schools in that position simply by cutting them a check because they need the money.
You understand this is a $20 billion revenue share we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's 22% on average for all P4 schools. 22% they're kicking down to their athletes. And I say it's high time. It's high time. The idea that you were compensating these kids with lifelong disabilities. Oh, but we threw in a scholarship, so you'll be fine. You made billions on the back of these athletes and gave them essentially nothing for it. And I agree that an education is really important. I agree that 99.99% of these kids will never draw a paycheck to play professional sports. But a college scholarship is not good enough because you took advantage of kids who had no business going to a lot of these universities so you could win games, so you could make money. So they weren't able to intellectually compete. They weren't able to academically compete, and they have a knee that's never going to be the same, a back, a brain injury. College football in particular is absolutely devastating to the body. So you owe these kids this money, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You owe it to them. This $2.5 billion is just a drop in the bucket. If you're going to have knee replacement at 30 years old, come on. You're, in my opinion, this is what should have happened years and years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's why this, this whole settlement came about, right? I mean, that's why the whole conversation's even being had, because we if you think about how this all played out, like it started with us, like the proverbial us, the college football world,
Right.
getting more comfortable with the concept of, hey, yeah, like these kids are going to make money one way or the other, and we shouldn't stop Travis Hunter from being able to make money on his name, image, and likeness.
But let's think about one thing. It's funny you bring that up. Do you understand the average athlete here is going to get about $12,000 a year for a decade? They'll average $120,000 over 10 years. And everybody's going to be like, dude, that's a lot of money. Is it really a lot of money? When you're a guy like Travis Hunter, who's making $12,000 probably per game because he's allowed to. Do you know how much money these kids dating back to 2016 lost in things like video games, t-shirt deals, hat deals, car deals?
Think about the marketplace, where we are in today's world. Like,
yeah.
if we just take a step back and just think about, like, 10 years ago, there was a lot. I feel like there was a lot more spending power in the marketplace, in the advertising space, than there is right here today. So the
flexibility.
Flexibility. So, like, to be able to clearly, you can make the argument that, hey, yeah, someone who played 10 years ago could have easily made money on their name, image, and likeness.
Well,
and
look at all the Utes driving pickup trucks, or you look at these guys with blender deals at Colorado for Deion Sanders, or whatever you want to point to. The whole thing here is this $12,000 a year for 10-year thing. I don't think is fair. It is a tip of the cap. Hey, you got screwed. And this $12,000 a year for the next 10 years, that's a thank you from all of the kids who are now making millions and driving Ram pickup trucks.
Yeah, we'll pay your taxes for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's truly what this is. And again, I don't want to make this out like the cost of an education is nothing. I fully understand that the kids are getting high-level educations. Again, at Colorado's a hell of an academic institution. You look across the Big 12, the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the SEC, the Big like you look at Michigan. We talked about this during the Michigan scandals last year. As much of a dirtbag as Jim Harbaugh is, well, those kids were getting a great education at Michigan because that is a wonderful place to go to college, a wonderful law school. So I'm not saying that kids didn't get compensated, but what I'm saying is, how many of those kids had the perspective? How much importance did Brian Bosworth put on his education in Oklahoma? Ask it legitimately. How much importance did Devin Hester put on his education at Miami? Come on. I think we all know the answer to that question. Maurice Clarett at Ohio State.
Well, and I think we also have to make the point that a lot of these guys don't finish their education before they go to the league. Like most of like an NFL caliber college football player, like, again, Travis Hunter, just for example's sake, Shador Sanders. These guys are getting drafted after 3 years going
Look at
to the
Shaq
league.
at LSU.
Yeah, Shaq at LSU, another good example, right?
Going back to school on a promise he made to his parents.
Yeah, and we hear that story all the time.
All the time.
And I think that, to say, hey, the education, giving you a free, college education is fair compensation for what you're giving up here with your body, I think is just short-sighted, mainly because it's not like they just gave you the diploma and now all that knowledge is locked into your brain. I mean, you got to go and do the learning. You got to go to the classes. Like, you're working 2 full-time jobs to get the education and to know your playbook and to be a starter on your team. Like, think about that. Like, not only as a football player specifically, not only do you have to go to class, be a good student, earn that education, albeit free, right? You're not paying for anything, but you still got to go out and get those grades. And then on top of that, you got to learn your playbook. You got to work your ass off in the weight room. You got to go and practice in the heat of the day. Like, I think people don't quite understand how difficult that is to do. I feel like, a lot of people just want to generalize it and say, well, we gave them a free education. Like, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value. Well, you may have priced it at that value. That doesn't mean it's worth $100,000 to every single player. I mean, how many of these kids never went back to school because they just didn't feel like it, because it's too hard for them, because they can't academically compete
in a society where education was not the priority. And when you go to a university today, and I think we need to be able to talk about this stuff openly. Not every kid goes to college to get an education, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not every kid signs an NIL deal because he wants to play college sports. He signs an NIL deal to help his parents, because we don't see outside of our own 4 walls. We don't understand the plight of the inner city kid. We don't understand the plight of how expensive it is to be a parent and have your kid go to the private school at Mater Dei and have to pay for things like throwing coaches, and because your kid's trying to live a dream, and he's going to junior college, and then he's going here and he's going there, and maybe he's transferred high schools. Go look at AAU and look at AAU basketball in this country and tell me that sets kids up to succeed, because it does not. AAU does not set kids up to succeed in life. And if you can go to, and BYU is a great example of this. Kalani Sitake is going to make you a man. You're going to go to class, but what else do you have to do at BYU? You got to go to church. Look at Notre Dame. You got to go to church every day. You got to, the life is not easy. And I think so many people are like, well, just don't make them go to class then. That's not the right thing to do. We're taking 18-year-old kids who now are allowed to earn money before they ever step on campus.
Yeah.
That was also part of the settlement. But we're taking 18-year-old kids and we're putting them in leverage spots. How many Ryan Williams at Alabama are there? Because there's not a lot. That kid is thriving, right? That kid came to Bama ready to play football. But there are so many kids who are not.
Mm-hmm.
So what this settlement does is it gives them a little more time and a little more comfort. And if that's what you get out of it, I'm all for it. But let's also not forget this right here. It's time for the Super League. And it's time for the lesser universities in the college football world to take a step back. This is where the big dogs step up to the trough and they eat before you do.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to pay for your spot. And I totally get that. I don't look down on anybody. I cannot believe that there is an FCS school, because with this settlement, it's not just $5 million anymore to step up from FCS to FBS to compete at the highest level of college athletics anymore. Now you're talking about $60 to $70 million. Look at Sacramento State in the Pac-12. New stadiums, new facilities, new staff. How many tens of millions of dollars is that? Then you got to pay your $5 million. How many tens of millions of dollars is that totaling now? Now you got to pay for more air travel. Now you got to pay for more tutors. Now you got to pay for more food and more training tables and more catering and more insurance and on and on and on.
Yep.
How many FCS schools opt into the settlement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think very few.
Very, very few.
Is there even 5?
And
Legitimately.
the other thing, and then I want to get to your comments because I think your voice on this is really important. The other thing you got to remember, how many universities are operating at a profit in athletics? Far fewer than you think. So I think this is going to shrink the pool of Super League candidates, and I think that's exactly what this Super League needed to get off the ground.
Well, and I think it kind of, to that point, I think one step further, it kind of categorizes these schools. Like obviously, yeah, you've got the group of schools that's going to compete in the Super League, of
Yep.
course, of course. But then, we also know that, hey, that group of schools competing in the Super League is obviously going to be quite a bit smaller than the rest of college football. And so the question to me, for just generally speaking, college football's sake and its health moving forward, is not whether or not the Super League will do well. The Super League will do extremely well. It will thrive. They will make a boatload of money. I have no doubt that that's a great concept, will come to fruition, and everybody will make money. But I think the more important question in the big picture is, what does the any school that competes as a football and every other sport kind of school, what does that look like? What does your future look like there? How do you, if you're not a Super League team and you opt out of this settlement, what does that look like moving forward? Do we ever get the national championship for the G5 and everybody else? Do we get, an independent system, if you will, for those schools? Because I think that's the type of thing that's going to have to happen for it to work for everybody. And I think the Super League's got to have the priority because, like you said, you got to have the big dogs eating. But then everyone else, there's got to be a system there that gets laid out at some point.
You're going to have 105 people playing football for you, human beings. I mean, that's billions of dollars in scholarship money right there. I mean, it is to play college football is not cheap. And it is never been more critical that your non-revenue generating sports make you money, that they generate. I mean, even if it's 15 cents, they've got to generate revenue.
Yes.
They have to, because if I again believe that Ohio State is the gold standard in revenue generation in college athletics, that $200+ million a year. How many schools will not do that money in a decade? Many. If you're in the Patriot, the Ivy League, if you're in any of those, if you don't play, let me ask you this. If you are Gonzaga, are you ever opting into the Super League? Of course not. But are you opting into revenue sharing with your athletes? That's a big question.
I mean, I don't think you have a choice. I think at Gonzaga, you have to, because you need to continue to get the best athletes in basketball. And the only way to do that is to pay. And, but I know it sucks, but like, that's a vicious cycle that a school like Gonzaga is going to have to deal with, where, hey, and again, nobody was trying to hear this smoke when we were talking about this with the Pac-12 situation. But all these schools that got on their high horse and said, oh, hey, the Pac-12 is better, we're getting in here, even though there's not any semblance of a TV deal working right now. It's all in negotiations. It's all in the background. We haven't heard word one about it. So there's no guarantee of any type of pay raise or money yet, just what they're telling you. And now you've got the settlement to worry about. And that's why I don't understand why schools who had guaranteed money coming to them in a TV deal that was already hammered out thought it was a good idea to take this risk in today's climate. Because you can't be in a spot where you're locked into a contract for 5 years on an underperforming deal that doesn't allow you to make enough money.
Especially with the Mountain West doing their new TV deal already.
Yeah,
you knew you were at $7 million. Like, I think it's a real conversation now. Do basketball onlys opt out of revenue sharing? I think a majority of them will.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is it a scarlet letter, or does it make you a pariah if you are not revenue sharing? I think that's a real question. Is a scholarship enough for a 2-star football player to go to North Dakota State, to go to Sacramento State, UC Davis, to go and play at any school that is not revenue sharing. Because you can forget about it now. Like your historically black colleges, HBCUs, you're out of the game. Deion Sanders, does Deion Sanders ever happen again? Does Travis Hunter ever go to Jackson State under these current circumstances? There's not a chance in the world.
No.
It's not a chance in the world. And does Deion Sanders ever agree to be the head coach at Jackson State if these rules were in place previously? Not a chance in the world. Because he knows Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis Hunter, he knows his guys aren't gonna make money at Jackson State. So the game has changed today. And I'm here for it. I am ready for the Super League.
Yeah, and I also think, like, just one thought coming to my mind, very, very much on the outskirts of the conversation. But if you're a head coach or if you're in the coaching side of this conversation, this changes your reality big time.
Absolutely.
I mean, whether you're like, think about guys like Chip Kelly, who were a head coach, now you're the coordinator at Ohio State. Like, think about like, obviously yesterday we talked all about Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. Like just think about these guys' situations and the trajectory they're on and how much this affects the decisions they make. Because I'm telling you, it's on the forefront of their minds. They have to consider it when they think about, hey, well, I'm Mike Gundy and I'm Dabo Swinney. I haven't really embraced the portal yet, but maybe now I have to. Maybe now it's not up to me.
Have to.
Like,
I mean, you're in a position now where it's an arms race.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem with it. I know I have taken a beating on this show for saying this. I am no fan of Cinderella and her slippers. I'm not here for it. I want Georgia Bama every single Saturday. I want big games of consequence. I don't care. The Ohio State, Oregon this week, dude, I'm not playing golf because I am watching Oregon and Ohio State this week. Yes. The smoker is going to be power washed, and I am going to have a mammoth pile of wings and ranch dressing while my guy Will Howard goes out and kicks some duck ass. I'm here for it. I need that game every Saturday, and the Super League gives it to me. Because in a Super League, if you don't win games, you're not getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, is my quarterback healthy? And what do 7, 8, 10 people sitting around a mahogany table I can't afford deciding my future mean? What it is, hey, did we play well enough to get in? Okay, great.
Well, what it would have been like last year if the Super League was a thing, Florida State would have got rolled by Georgia in that game. And that would have been what sent them home. Not, to your point, a group of people around a mahogany table you can't afford.
Right?
Like I completely agree with it. And I think that, it's the old it's that
Ready.
old, all again, and then we'll get to your comments, but all the red ass folks about, treating Kyle Whittingham like he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Do
we still have that bite?
We do. And I think it's justified to play it today because at Big 12 Media Day, you've got Kyle Whittingham talking about the fact that college football is heading towards a NFL minor league system.
So much change already, and there's more on the horizon. I can tell you that we're not done. I think it's ultimately going to get to 2 super conferences and their own playoff system and probably break away from the NC2A. Have a commissioner and all. An NFL minor league model, I think, is where we're heading in that regard.
How does that look today? Like,
makes us look like geniuses because we've been telling you that for 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a very clear objective here, man. There's a very clear direction.
Yes, 365 Sports with Kyle Whittingham at Big 12 Media Day in Las Vegas. You are with the Monty Show right now. Our comment section every single day is presented to you by our good friends at Prize Picks. Just take my money. I am personally Stop it. I am personally funding. I am personally funding the payroll at Prize Picks last week.
Last night was not productive on Prize Picks. That was
see what happened was
yeah.
I took Jake's advice again, And I don't know why I ever take your advice. You're terrible at prize picks, yet he's won
Yeah, I got
all the time.
Bro, I've been on a heater, bro. I'm sitting nice.
I had Xavier Worthy for 42.5 receiving yards. What? 25? I had Derek Carr for 106 or 188.5.
I have to say, it's embarrassing that he did not hit that number. That's
well, thankfully, Prize Picks rebooted it, so I won, right? No, because did Alvin Kamara get anywhere near the end zone? I had him for 1 touchdown rushing or receiving. No. Take my money,
idiots.
Idiot. I have not won in the NFL on Prize Picks since week 3. 2 straight weekends. I have absolutely sold my soul to Prize Picks. It's ridiculous how bad I have been in the NFL this year on Prize Picks. Now, Major League Baseball, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You and I both know.
Got to get in on the Dodgers and Padres. Bro.
Have to. Prize Picks.
Bro.
Download the app. Use the promo code Monty to open up a new account. You deposit $5. They'll give you 50 more. It's the single greatest daily fantasy promo I have ever seen. If you are not excited about Lawyers and Padres, did you watch the Guardians and Tigers yesterday?
Man,
that was a pitching duel. Well, until it wasn't. Can I just little old Uncle Monty over here, boys? Hey, single up. All right,
Marty?
hey, just so you know, when you throw 100 miles an hour, probably don't want to hang that whatever off-speed pitch
it
that was.
A sweeper.
That was you don't want to hang that. Your throw. Hey. You throw 100 miles an hour. Stick with the heater. And you didn't, and it wound up in the seats. And the Tigers won.
Series tied 1-1.
Nobody likes Detroit. The point is, Prize Picks tonight for Dodgers and Padres.
Gotta have Michael King on strikeouts, dude.
I think you definitely do. But I think you look at Shohei the money. I think you look at the great gambler and Shohei Ohtani.
The great gambler.
Same thing. I think there's only 3 ways to go here. Does Walker Buehler strike out 3 or more Padres? Don't you have to go more on Walker Buehler? As bad as he has been.
Okay, so here's just the Dodgers starting pitching in the postseason has been notoriously bad. Not just this year. Over the last several years.
Terrible.
Walker Buehler. I love the guy. Love his style. Love the way he pitches. We just haven't really seen this dude. I think it's a big risk. If you pick Walker Buehler more than 3 pitcher strikeouts, I think that has a good shot of hitting tonight, but it is a risky pick. I think there's a lot of unknown in that pick, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, could he, what's the risk of Walker Buehler getting run in the first inning? Legitimately.
High.
I think there's a high risk of that.
High. And you look at Manny Machado trying to hit Dave Roberts with a ball. Did you guys listen? I am a Cubs fan. I hate the Dodgers. I will just throw that out there.
Right.
Manny Machado is taking ground balls. And he tried to hit Dave Roberts with a throw. Dave was in the dugout, and he tried to hit Dave Roberts with a throw and then laughed about it. It's not funny. Like, this series has so much hate and anger in it.
Yeah.
It's why I love it. It's why I'm taking Shohei for 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And pitcher strikeouts tonight is very difficult. Aaron Nola, his demon is 6.5 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He has hit that 4 straight starts.
Yeah, I like that
including 7 against the Mets on September 13th.
Yeah, I like that.
It's Phillies Mets. I think you have to take that.
I'm going Michael King, more than 3.5 strikeouts on a goblin.
But he hasn't been able to do that.
And
the Dodgers, he didn't he strike out 3 Dodgers last time they faced?
Let me see.
I'd be a little nervous about that. I would be a little nervous about that. That's one. I would play hits, runs, and RBIs tonight in baseball because I also think I look at Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper is a postseason god. I think we all know that. His hits, runs, and RBIs on a demon are 1.5. You could play a goblin, which means it's easier. 1 hit, run, or RBI. Or you can play a demon at 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Against the Mets, I think you have to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I'll
I
take
think
your advice. I'll take your advice on my side.
I'm going 3 demons here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hit them all, that would be remarkable. I've got Shohei 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Aaron Nola 6.5 strikeouts, so he needs 7. And Bryce Harper 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs.
So I took the Shohei one as well.
$20 flex play to pay $140.
I've got Tatis on a demon, 3.5 total bases.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of taking Michael King on a goblin for more than 3.5 Ks, I'm going to take him less than 5.5 Ks. See how we do. If I hit on all 3, that's 20 to win 120 because of 2 demons.
Sean Manaea going against the Phillies. His last time out, September 21st, 7 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned, 2 home runs, 6 Ks, and he only faced 11 batters. So, or no, that can't be right. 89 pitches. He threw 89 pitches and gave up 11 fly balls. Yeah. So, I think he's going to be hittable tonight. Yeah, I think he will be hittable tonight. He had 2 starts against the Brewers, got shelled the first time out, and got hit pretty well the second time. You don't give Bryce Harper that many shots at one guy and think he's not going to come through. Prize Picks, the official daily fantasy partner of the Monty Show. Hook it up. Use the promo code Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, Monty, to open up a new Prize Picks account. Deposit $5. They'll give you 50 more at Prize Picks.